Immigration attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your questions. I also have, so this time I have two topics to talk about. We have been getting a lot of calls about the that has passed in the SB 1718. Not only want to, I did a breakdown of the law. So, some of the major parts of the law, I did a summary of it. But now I want to talk about your options going forward, right? So we know this has passed. We know that it's very, very likely that the governor is going to sign the bill. So what next? Should you be leaving Florida? So what I would say here is you may be here, you may have already created you may have already created your life here, you're settled here. And so you are in a situation where you really don't want to leave. Um, you may have here, you may have your family here, and so you're faced with this prospect that you have to leave for your in your best interest. And of course, that is one of the things that has to be on the table right now, because this bill, even though it's not a bill that's saying law enforcement go and pick up all undocumented, it's not detaining you just because you are an undocumented immigrant. The law doesn't give law enforcement that right, but it does target immigrants, undocumented immigrants who are working and who don't have authorization. If you have a work permit, if you have a social security number, you're good. A valid work permit and social security number. However, this law is targeting those individuals who are working for employers without that employment authorization. And so it's making it impossible to continue to work. I mean, they're very harsh penalties for the employer. So the first thing that I expect is that right now we're seeing a lot of immigrants making moves to go to other states. That's one. To go to places where there are jobs that are vacant that they can fill. Now, the other is employers. The cost may be too high for employers. They may not be willing to take the risk to hire undocumented immigrants and then face harsh penalties, which includes revocation of their license to function. So the business could be shut down just by hiring undocumented immigrants. So seeing that the law is attacking employers, as well as undocumented immigrants, it's really is going to make it impossible. If this bill goes forward, it really is going to make it impossible for many undocumented immigrants to continue working. And this also goes for undocumented immigrants that you may be running a business of your own. You may have a license to run your business in Florida. You may be registered with the state, but now you may have to face a prospect that your business could be shut down because you're working in your business as an undocumented immigrant, and you may be hiring other individuals too. So it's a tough bill. What I would say right now is that it still has to go before the governor, and he has to sign it for it to become effective on July 1st. A number of things can happen. Just like the other types of bills that he has created, this may be challenged. It may be challenged on constitutional grounds. It may be challenged, in other ways based on established law. And if it's challenged, there may be an order to put the law on hold. So, it's usually called an injunction, where when the law is in question, the one of the parties may ask that be placed on hold until they can sort through the litigation. Can take months, it can take years. And so that is stop it from going into effect on July 1st. and would buy a lot of individuals more time. So that is one possibility that can happen before or even shortly after July 1st. However, unfortunately, a lot of the damage will already be done because many people will need to leave before then. They're trying to make plans to leave before then. And I do highly suggest that you have a plan B in place. Now, if your papers are currently pending, you expect a work permit, you may be able to sit tight. This is for individuals, though, that you can't afford to sit tight. You need to work, you need to feed your family. And if you need to do that, then this bill is going to target you, it's going to affect you. And you have to definitely plan for your future so that you can make sure you can continue to feed your families and remain in the United States safely. And that plan B is the possibility of moving to another state where they do need your assistance. They do need your labor there. I know it's tough, but those are the possibilities that we're looking at here. Just to be realistic, it's unbelievable that this kind of bill is passing in Florida, just because Florida is like a melting pot of many immigrants. So it's just unbelievable, and the state is going to be harmed. The people of Florida are going to be the ones that are harmed, because I don't think they're thinking through, the lawmakers, these out of touch lawmakers are really thinking through the repercussions of this. That once immigrants, undocumented immigrants, leave these jobs, our cost of living is going to go up. Businesses are going to shut down, those that can't afford to run a business with the increased cost of labor. So we're going to feel it. We're all going to feel that, and it's going to affect the economy eventually. Another thing that you will happen, I'm sure, is that you're going to have these employers that will take advantage of this law in a very negative way. So you're going to have those unscrupulous employers that they will hold this over immigrants' heads and say, you better shut up or we're all going to jail. So where they're not willing to shut down, they want to keep taking advantage and exploiting undocumented immigrants, and they're going to take that path of doing it by trafficking, by putting undocumented immigrants through the ordeal of trafficking. And so there's a real danger there. So you'd have to be more vigilant about the employers that you yourself are selecting if you're going to stay here in the United States. So keep that in mind, that you're going to have, so I say you're going to have two main types of employers. You're going to have the ones that do shut down. Actually, let's talk about three. So you're going to have the ones that shut down because they're not going to, necessarily take the negative route to take advantage of undocumented immigrants or traffic immigrants, and they really don't have any option but to shut down because they can't afford the higher cost of labor. Then they are going to also, they're the ones that will, once they have to increase their costs because they're not shutting down, but now they have to hire a labor force that will charge more money to run the same type of business. And then you're going to have the bad guys, the ones that they have been running an under the table shop from before, but now they're empowered by a bill that they can use as a weapon against undocumented immigrants. All right. So those are the options here. The plan B is here, definitely to leave the state. But then the other possibilities that could occur before you actually get up and leave is that they may challenge this in court, and they may put a hold on the bill so that it buys people more time. It doesn't go into effect, and life goes on for a little bit longer while they sort this out in court. The other is that the governor, you know, there is it's unlikely, but the governor has to sign it for it to go into effect. He will sign it, given the opportunity. I think 99.9% chance he will sign it, but there is that 0.1% chance that for some reason or the other he doesn't sign it and it never goes into effect. So that may be one other option. The other is that it goes into effect. There's no hold on it, no challenges to this law, and then we have a mass exodus of undocumented immigrants, and then followed by a big crisis in Florida regarding labor and the ability of some industries and businesses to move forward. Now, I have been getting types of questions. So one is, can I live with an immigrant who's undocumented? Yes. It is not targeting undocumented immigrants who live with a relative or live with other people. So they're not going to come into your home and drag you out and drag you to jail because you're living with someone without status. This targets those who are transporting undocumented immigrants, those who have come into the country without permission across the border into Florida. Say, I did get an interesting question. What if you drive a taxi or an Uber? Do you have to check every single person's undocumented status? So based on the text in the bill, no, because only about, now if you are transporting someone from, say, Georgia right into Florida, you cross the border with that individual, multiple individuals, you're definitely going to, to protect yourself, of course, and to avoid any charges. Then you would have to determine the status, unfortunately, of the individuals that are crossing the border. So that is one thing. So if you're going from another state into Florida and you are transporting people, you have to be careful about that. If you're driving locally, you're driving from town to town, you're staying in Florida, you haven't come from outside of Florida into Florida, then this bill should not affect you. Driving someone to the airport should not affect you. It's not going to mean that driving someone to the airport, to or from the airport, is not going to mean that you're going to be targeted by this bill. So you can live with your relatives or your friends or your significant other, even if they are undocumented. You can drive with them. This does not target you if you're driving with them and you're not going from outside of the state into the state. But these are the things that are so outrageous that probably will be challenged. I honestly think that it will be challenged in court, and if it is, then at that point, I think there's a high likelihood that the court will put it on hold until they sort through the legal questions regarding this bill. All right, so now, yesterday I also touched on work permits. So I'm staying with the same theme here about how to get a work permit. And I'll get to your questions when I just quickly run through how to get a work permit based on the T visa. Now, a lot of people don't know about the T visa, and I have gotten this for my clients. It's a valuable form of relief that people don't know about, and that's why I come on here every day to educate you about these options that either other lawyers misunderstand, and as a result, they misinform potential clients. And so it's important for me to then tell you how it is based on my experience. So the T visa is a type of, T visa is what we call it, but unless you're coming from out of the US into the US, it's called a T visa. But when you're here in the US and you want to then get a status here based on your ordeal as a victim of trafficking, you can do that through the T status. Now, not only should you qualify for this, not only you will get this, but your spouse will get it, your children who are under 21 and unmarried will get it. If you are under 21 yourself, your parents will get it. Your parents, or your spouse, your parents, your children who are under 21 and unmarried, and your sibling who is under 18 and unmarried can get this. So the benefit not only goes to you, but it also can extend to family members. And if your family members are outside of the US, they can, once you get approved, they will get a visa to come into the US to stay here in the US with that T visa. Now, how do you know whether you qualify? Well, that's where the consultation is very important. This is why I give you I try to make this as simple as possible for you. So I do the heavy lifting for my clients, and I do a very detailed analysis to determine whether you qualify for this. But the way I explain this is to say this. If you were in a situation where you say you were with a relative, you were with an intimate partner or ex-partner, you were with an employer, you were with an acquaintance, or even a stranger, and you found yourself in a situation where you felt stuck, but you felt like you couldn't leave. Maybe you felt apprehension to leave because maybe this person had some sort of hold on you, control over you. Maybe they were mistreating you. Maybe they were threatening. And when I say threatening, not necessarily threatening to beat you, but maybe threatening and intimidating in other ways. And all of that was meant to keep you within their control, to manipulate you into maybe working for them. Now, work doesn't mean just going to a 9 to 5. Work means you are they put you in their house to work. So I've seen scenarios where, a relative is here and they call up their, say a sister is here. She calls her sister in Jamaica. And the sister in Jamaica has a teenage daughter. She has a 17-year-old that just at high school. And they're like, why don't you send them up here on the visitor's visa, and I will put them in school. I will take care of them. I'll then send them to college, and I'll do this. I'll get them their papers. And so the sister in Jamaica, of course, this is such a great offer. And the thought of sending your child to the United States, the 17-year-old, to gain an education and to be able to have the opportunity at achieving a great future here in the United States is irresistible, right? So a lot of people end up doing these kinds of things, which in some cases it's the right move. In others, unfortunately, that person that's here, the sister who's here in the US, they have an ulterior motive. So when that 17-year-old comes, and keep in mind, you can be any age. You don't have to be 17, but I'm just using 17-year-old. 17-year-old comes here, and when they come here, it's a completely different story. They're not allowed to leave the house. They have strict rules. They have to take care of her kids. They have to take care of her grandkids. They have to clean the house. They have to cook all the meals. They're like a helper, right? They're like a maid in the house. They're there for that. Then on top of that, they don't send them to school, or they don't do anything that they promised to do. And then they're maybe taking control of them, taking their passport to make sure, just to have that extra security to make sure that 17-year-old doesn't leave. That is considered a form of trafficking. And the way that she got her niece to come to the US to work in her house, so it's not traditional work, but it's work around the house, that's work, right? And that's why it's labor trafficking, because she didn't come for that purpose. She didn't expect to be put to work like that, to be the nanny, to be the maid, to be the cook in the house. She didn't expect that. And had her mother in Jamaica known that that was the purpose she was bringing her here for, she would never have sent her daughter. So that means that this sister in the US did this fraudulently, induced her by fraud to send her daughter to the United States to be used, abused, exploited for her benefit and not for her daughters, right? So that's an example of trafficking. And the reason I'm using this as an example, I mean, there's many different facts that I can present to you regarding trafficking, because trafficking comes in different forms. You have sex trafficking, you have labor trafficking, but within sex trafficking, it could be an intimate partner, it could be a pimp, it could be or a pimp or a john, right? The traditional way we think about trafficking. With labor trafficking, and with sex trafficking, by the way, it could also be, say you are here on an H-2B and you start working, the recruiter comes to you or your manager comes to you and says, listen, season is about to end. Do you want to keep working or you want some more hours? You have to do this for me. And maybe this is, a bunch of sexual type of acts that they want you to perform for them to get the hours, to get the hours, or to get reassurance that you will be brought back for the next season on the H-2B. That's a form of sex trafficking, right? So it comes in different forms, and that's why I try to sum it down to this. If you're in a situation where you didn't want to do that, but you felt like you had to do it because maybe they had some sort of hold on you. For example, with the H-2B, you want that H-2B visa. You want to keep working. You want to keep supporting your family in your home country. And so they're telling you, you have to do this thing that you don't want to do to get that thing of value, right? Which is the H-2B visa. So it comes in different forms. But the reason I use the example of the aunt who brought up the niece and used fraud to do it is because this happens in our everyday lives. In our everyday lives, things like this happen. And this is when I speak to clients who become my clients for the T visa. It starts with that, where they don't know that they have a solution, but they just know that something isn't right and they need help. And when they reach out for the help and they explain their situation to me, they are so surprised that that they do have the option to apply for this T visa based on what is happening to them. Now, the USCIS, the Immigration Service, has changed their policies to include all these different types of trafficking. And so this is why it is the right time to go ahead and get started on this before, something happens. Now we're seeing here with DeSantis, right? People voted for him, and now he's setting the whole state on fire with all sorts of crazy bills. The same thing, unfortunately, if that happens nationally, if that happens in the federal election, then policies are going to change. And so you want to be ahead of the game by figuring out your solutions from now. And it may be, the solution may be the T visa here. So if you're in a situation where you had an employer who brought you into a situation, they underpaid you, overworked you, maybe promised you things that they never gave you, refused to pay or paid you less than agreed upon, took some of your fees, deducted your fees, told you had to do this or else. And it's not necessarily just threats like they're going to physically harm you, but they may say you have to do this or we're going to send you back home. If you were in a situation similar to this, doesn't have to be exactly like that. This is where this could be a potential option for you. Same as if you had a relative, if you had an intimate partner who had brought you here, Sometimes with intimate partners, they say things like, when you come here, they're going to marry you, and then they're going to get you your green card, and you believe them, you trust them, they are your partner, and then you come here and they put you to work in their house, they lock you up, they keep you for themselves, they make you, have sex with them when you don't want to, they control you. That is a form of trafficking here as well. So relatives, acquaintances, anybody, and they don't have to be a citizen or a resident for you to qualify for the T status. And know that this rule is going into effect in Florida. I want you to be vigilant. I want you to look out for yourselves by looking at the behavior of the employer to make sure that you are not going to find yourself in a trafficking situation, because know that those kind of things can happen. And one central piece of advice I can give you about an employer is, if they say they can get you the work permit, but you have to work for them first, lie. There's no employer that can hire you first and then get the work permit for you afterwards. Doesn't work that way. They have to first petition for you to get permanent residence or to get the visa. And if you're getting the visa, you're getting it from outside, or to do a change of status. They have to do that before you start to work for them. So if an employer says, come work for me, but you have to work for me first, and then I'll get you the work permit, that's usually the start of a labor trafficking situation. So I'm giving you that one thing that can carry you a long way and make you wiser when you are trying to evaluate what's real from not, and which employers can help you from not. And if an employer is telling you, come work for me first, earn your stripes first, and then I'll get you the work permit, lie. All right. Let me quickly run through the questions. I have 3 minutes, so let me quickly run through some questions here. So stay patient with me, please. So I saw that I have questions. I'm from Jamaica. I moved to the USA with family of 6 of us, 2 adults and 4 children. And I didn't see the rest of it. I came here and sought asylum. I left my then 2-year-old son back home. He's now 4, and my ex-husband has threatened to harm him. If he gets any of my kids, he doesn't know I'm here with my daughter. So unfortunately, I need help to bring my son as I await asylum case. Can this be done? I'm afraid for his life. So usually, and this is why people go to the border when they need to get to the U.S. and to seek safety. However, if your son doesn't have a visa, it's very unlikely that they're going to just let him on a plane. So if he's fearing for his life, then it's at that point then that you have to declare asylum at the border. What if you visit Texas from Florida, bring undocumented and return? Will that be an issue? Yes, if you're driving, that could be an issue. If the spouse threatening to get you deported for no reason and calling you names, does that give you a green card? Yes, absolutely. Give us a call. We can definitely help you. Go to the profile to schedule that appointment. But this is exactly what qualifies you for your own green card in a confidential, protected process. Okay, so unfortunately I don't have enough time to run through the bill again, but you can rewatch. I'm gonna post the video again so you can watch that part. I have my Florida driver's license and waiting on work permit. Will that put me in harm? If it's a valid driver's license, it shouldn't put you in harm. And then let me just look at the questions on YouTube. I did my biometrics for 131 and 765 through VAWA. How long those take to receive my EAD? So the EAD, the work permit, you're still looking at up to a year from the date you filed your application. Good morning. What about those who have overstayed? The bill does target those who have overstayed and you're working without authorization. So it says here that the sound isn't good today. I really hope that, okay, so the sound quality is poor. Oh no. Okay, so it's kind of too late for me to fix it, but we'll have a better day tomorrow. Um, Hi, does a traffic ticket for driving with no license consider to yes? I don't answer questions about particular questions on the application. Madam, I follow you very often. I'm a young Gabonese living in Africa. I have half brothers who are American. They want to bring me and get the green card. How to proceed? Siblings, it's taking 14 years for siblings to sponsor. So it's not going to be, they can definitely do that as long as they're citizens and they're 21 and up, but it is going to be a while until they're ready to give you the green card. All right. Thanks so much for your questions. I'll be back tomorrow. So just take care, hang tight in the meantime. And I apologize for the sound quality on YouTube. Tomorrow will be better though. All right. Have a good one.